By 1994, 24-year-olds Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin have gone from two kids hacking in their basement to a lucrative deal with Universal, and one of their most famous games is born on a road trip.
On our way across country from Boston to Los Angeles, I think it was Iowa, that we decided that we wanted to make a character action game. By the time we left Iowa, we had decided that we wanted to do it in fully 3D. What we did is we said, how do you move a 2D game into 3D?
What would it be like if you put Sonic the Hedgehog in 3D?
What we realized was that the simplest conceptual way to do this was to take a 2D world that was flat to you and simply rotate it like this, so that the gameplay happened without movement to the left and right, but rather in and out. This concept we called Sonic's ass.
You have a game where you're always watching Sonic's ass. Yeah, because the camera would be behind him. So we jokingly called it the Sonic's ass game.
Jason and Andy strive for a different look, great graphics, and a true 3D environment.
Let's kind of take a Warner Brothers style cartoon and put it in 3D. We came up with the idea of putting the camera on kind of dolly, like they do in a lot of movie scenes. Therefore, you kind of knew where the camera was going to be and had a decent vantage point on the actions.
The advantage to our method was, by turning the camera 90 degrees and keeping the character restricted, we could draw a lot more polygons. And the look, the density of the foliage, the amount of detail in it, gave it a competitive edge.
Jason and Andy received the okay from Mark Cerny, president of Universal Interactive.
Well, one of the big challenges of console development is that when it's shipped, it's shipped. You cannot send a patch for a PlayStation game. So all the polish that we want to get in there has to be done at Gold Master time.
But Andy and Jason's relationship with Universal has some glitches.
We kind of knew we wanted to do an animal character.
We dealt with a marketing department at Universal that had some very interesting ideas about where they wanted the character to go. Some of the names that they stuck on and actually printed up materials: Wezzles the Wombat, Willie the Wombat, Wuzzy. I can tell you, any gamer in the United States that picked up a box with Wuzzy the Wombat and the corresponding goofy attitude character that would have come from that, it would have been an absolute disaster.
But the pair has different ideas for their character.
We went through books of different animals and stuff, and we came across the Bandicoot, and he was cute, and he had a cool name.
So Crash the Bandicoot is born. And the game is a truly ambitious undertaking.
At the time, no one had ever done a platform action game in 3D, and had never done a game with a true free roaming camera. The only kind of games that were 3D were simulator games and Virtual Fighter, and all those had constrained cameras.
We were trying to do something that ended up being almost as complex as what we're now doing with 10 programmer staff on Crash Bandicoot. We had an extremely complex algorithm to compress the levels so that we could run 12 to 15 megabytes of data through the 2 meg PlayStation.
I think I counted about 12 all-nighters that I had. That means that you come in at 10 o'clock, you don't leave till the next day at 8 p.m. or so. It was very chaotic and hectic, but we all knew that this was something very big.
In the spring of 1995, Sony unveils the PlayStation, and in 1996, Crash Bandicoot is unveiled at E3.
Crash Bandicoot was seen by everybody, and right then and there, it was out in the face of everybody saying, yeah, we know Mario. Mario is the king of the industry, but here's Crash, and he's out there to compete head-on with Mario.
And in the fall of 1996, Crash Bandicoot is released to the public.
Nintendo has Mario. Sega has Sonic. We're going to make the mascot for Sony. Now, Sony never needed, never wanted, and never created a mascot for the PlayStation, but it was the defining character action game for the PlayStation.
By December of 1996, sales have soared. But for the Japanese release, some changes are in order.
When we signed our publishing deal with Sony Computer Entertainment, Sony said this game is not just an American game. This game has to do well all over the world. And to be honest with you guys, Japan has some reservations about the character Crash Bandicoot. Some of the most senior people from Sony Japan are coming to America, and they want to talk to you about the character because the character was designed by Americans for the West. It was not designed in any way with Japan in mind. Very, very scary meeting.
So back to the drawing board it is to give Crash a little makeover.
So we took a break for 15 minutes, and I went to one of our artists, Charlotte Branson. I said, Charlotte, close his mouth. Get him a smile, but get rid of all teeth. And Charlotte worked frantically for 15 minutes, got rid of it. We printed out that image. I walked in, and they said, that's Crash Bandicoot. They worked their entire marketing plan around creating an image for Japan that worked.
With tweaks to Crash's appearance and place, in December 1996, Crash is released in Japan. Crash Bandicoot becomes the first U.S. title to sell over 1 million units, and Crash Mania hits Japan, even inspiring a dance.
Shak, 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 shake, 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 go, dance, hankaiten.
This sort of weird characteristic dance, which was actually kind of made up by the Japanese marketing department for their commercials and stuff. And it was just so goofy that it kind of worked.
Crash Bandicoot the sequel is released in 1997, and by January 98, sales of both Crash 1 and 2 reached 5 million units worldwide. Crash Dwarf sells over 1 million units following its 1998 debut. The Bandicoot becomes a legend, and in 1999, Crash resurfaces on a kart racer.
The first two games in the Crash Bandicoot franchise were traditional character action platformers. We wanted to expand our horizons and do something a little bit different, fully 3D rather than a linear path, and we were really excited about trying to bring the excitement of a kart racer to the PlayStation.
Crash Team Racing sells 1 million units. By 1999, the Crash franchise has generated more than $300 million. Not bad for a couple of kids from DC. Naughty Dog is eager to streamline their operations.
The beginning of Universal's relationship with Naughty Dog was Universal is a powerhouse in Hollywood. That was the spirit with which we joined Universal.
Management began to change at Universal, and they ended up in this odd middleman position where they had sold the rights of publishing to Sony, and Sony was doing the publishing, and we were doing the developing, and they were kind of there in the middle. With the exception of Mark, no one there knew a thing about games.
As we kept moving forward, we realized, Mark realized as well, that the best way to create games was to do the production at Naughty Dog and the publishing at Sony, and that Universal was not adding to the mix.
So we just kind of outgrew them.
Naughty Dog severs ties with Universal and Crash, the little guy that helped launch them.
I thank my lucky stars that we made the decision, hard as it was, to walk away from an absolute superstar and start something new.
But for Naughty Dog, that something new they're about to introduce will take them even further.